Hello, how's it going? Welcome to the Rum Revival. It's Arminder here, and today I'm going to be talking about two brand new rums from a brand new brand. These are rums from the Rumcast Reserve, a brand that is brand new, brought to you by the folks over at the Rumcast podcast, hence the name Rumcast Reserve. Now, this is exciting because the Rumcast is awesome, and they've decided to actually put out some rum, which is really, really cool. And these are the first two releases, and hopefully the first two of many to come in the future. And full disclosure, they sent these over to me, and I kindly accepted, and that is very cool of them. Been on the podcast, I guess, technically 3 or 4 times, 4 times now, I guess, 4 separate podcasts. And we've had a great time, and I was really excited for them to be doing this. And what's really cool about these, and we'll talk about them, they're single cask rum releases, really interesting releases. But I think the thing to kind of really talk about before I get into that is what they're doing with the brand, or what they did do with this brand, Rumcast Reserve, is over the last, I'd say, I guess, year or so, they've released multiple podcast episodes. And in fact, I think pretty much all their podcasts are also available on YouTube in a video format, so you can watch them here on YouTube as well. And I'll link to all that stuff down below. But what's really been cool is periodically they'll do these episodes where they kind of go and highlight this journey that they've been on to get these rums released. So it's a really great way of kind of getting a behind the scenes peek at how kind of a brand is formed, how a brand goes about sourcing single cask releases, rum in general, and then the things they have to think about and do to get them to you, like everything from what kind of bottles to use, what kind of labels to go with. And then what's been really cool is there's some episodes that they have, again, that I'll link below, because they actually went and sourced these rums from Liverpool. They went to Maine Rum Company out there. It was a huge warehouse with all sorts of single cask releases, and they tasted through a bunch of things, and they recorded that experience. And John and Will, they talk about the ones that they like, that they don't like. And it's been such a cool experience as a listener, as a viewer, to kind of go on that journey in a way with them throughout this process by listening through all those podcasts. And now we have the actual results of all that hard work. So it's really, really cool. So I highly recommend checking those out if you haven't. But let's get into what these rums are. Like I said, they're both single cask releases. There's a Mauritius and a Guyana. The Guyana, first and foremost, is labeled Guyana VSG. That's the mark. And this is a molasses-based pot still rum from Demerara Distillers Limited, the folks that make El Dorado. And this was made on their Versailles wooden pot still. We like the Versailles. We're big fans of the Versailles. And let me stop you right there. If you feel like you have the need to want to correct me in how I pronounce that instead of saying Versailles. I know that's how the French pronounce it, but a lot of folks at Demerara Distillers Limited pronounce that word as Versailles. And since this is rum from them, that's how I'm going to pronounce it. And if you have a problem with that, I was going to tell you not to leave a comment, but you know what? Leave the comment. Actually, it's great for me. It's great for engagement. The algorithm loves that. So yeah, please actually do correct me. I'd love that. Anyways, so molasses-based Versailles still. In terms of aging, it was aged 9 years and 11 months in a heavy char ex-rum cask. Now, all that aging was in Liverpool. So Maine Rum Company out there got their hands on unaged distillate, VSG, which is the mark, that distillate, and they did almost 10 years of aging in a heavy char cask there in Liverpool. Now, this is bottled at 50.9% ABV, and that is surprising for a cask strength single cask release. That seems low, but rums can drop down fairly sometimes significantly in their ABV, and this one potentially maybe did. So it's at 50.9%, and obviously, as you can see here, really for both of them, they're in 375 milliliter bottles, which I love those sizes. And can I just take a moment here to say that these look like really, like potions, really cool. D&D potions, wizard potion. I don't know. There's something really about them that really sort of hold and grip one in each hand. I really like it. Anyways, so that's the Guyana VSG. Now, the Mauritius is rum from Mauritius. This is cane juice rum from Mauritius. Now, there are a couple different distilleries out in Mauritius. This is from Le Bourdonnais, which is a distillery that I guess that's been around, if I had done any kind of research, which I didn't. I'd know, but I think they've been around for maybe 10, 15, 20 years tops, unless they've been around for 200. Whatever. Anyways, this is from Le Bourdonnais, and this is cane juice rum made on a traditional column still, and then it was aged 5 years and 5 months in an ex-English whiskey cask. Specifically, it's from Cotswold Distillery. I believe it was aged maybe all that time in Liverpool as well. I'm just basing all that on the really great detail they have on the label. But what you can do, there's some QR codes on both of these labels. You can scan them, and it'll take you to a page, I guess on the Rumcast or whoever's selling their stuff. I think it's on the Rumcast site, whatever. There's a lot more detail on each of these rums and links to kind of their podcasts and whatnot to get into all the backstory here. But anyways, this one, like I said, aged 5 years, 5 months in ex-English whiskey. And one other thing to call out on the Mauritius is that, yeah, it is a ex-whiskey cask, but it previously held wine before it held this rum. I believe it was red wine. So it is originally a whiskey cask. I don't know if it was a single-use whiskey cask or what, but eventually at some point before this rum came into there, it did hold some, I think, again, red wine, and now it's this. So I think main rum company calls it a wine malt cask or a malt wine cask, but yeah, just know that as I get into this. And it's about a 63% ABV, so a lot more higher octane than the Guyana right here. Oh, and then the mark for the Mauritius is MLMO or M0 maybe, depending on that. That seems like a very narrow O, so I have to guess that's a 0, but maybe that's just the font and it is 0. I don't know, but these are the kind of things I think about. MLMO. Anyways, those are the rums. Let's get into them. Perfect. You can't even see the bottles because of this damn mic. Whatever. Anyways, we're going to start off with sampling the Guyana here, the VSG. So, I would say right away it feels very DDL, Demerara Distillers Limited. So I get a little burst of orange peel, which is nice. I get a little bit of that Demerara quality. What do you want to call that? Baking spice, really nice kind of wintertime baking spice, but there's also like this undercurrent of leather and faint touch of caramel, a little bit of coffee, but really nice warming baking spices accented by that orange peel. John or Will in their podcast when they're giving tasting notes, they really kind of describe this one as kind of evoking kind of holiday, Christmas, winter, and it kind of really does on the aroma alone. It feels to me very kind of in the best way quintessential DDL. That it smells a certain way, and this has elements of that, not over like bold and intense like maybe some other DDL single cast I've had, but it evokes it in all the right ways, I think, in all the most kind of comforting and cozy kind of ways. Anyways, let's give this a sip. Cheers. Oh man, well, I gotta say, first thing I notice, great mouthfeel, kind of coats your mouth without being cloying or too slick or anything like that. Demerara goodness is like the kind of quick, easy description here, kind of my initial reaction. It's the things and that kind of quality of Demerara rums that I really like. This does that. It kind of, at first glance, plays in that space. Like with the aroma, I get orange. I get a little accent of orange. Not bold, but there's the Demerara thing, and it's got this kind of little slice or cut of orange that I kind of like. There's some like slight, light, burnt caramel flavor here as well. But underneath that, if you can give yourself the time, that's where I start picking up kind of this oily plant-like note. Not green grass, but like the, earthy plant thing happening here. Though also kind of twisted around it is this note of crayon, which I like, actually. I've had certain crayon notes in other rums I've never necessarily cared for, but here, kind of digging. Now, on the back end, the finish, it's, to me, a little bit more of that orange and leather. Nice little I was gonna say dry leather, but not overly dry, like a slightly moist leather. This is kind of simultaneously slightly decadent, but also dry, if that's a way to describe this. Now, I think this is familiar territory when it comes to Demerara rums. This isn't playing out of the box. This isn't a kind of crazy, singular, unique experience compared to every other, single cask Guyana rum I've had. No. If you give this to me blind, I'd probably say it was coming from Demerara distillers, and I'd be right. And it kind of checks a lot of the boxes. Yeah, it's not proofy. It's not intense and boozy because it's at that 50 point whatever percent ABV, and you can taste that. It's very, very approachable and very, very drinkable, and I have drank a lot of this. Though I did make an old fashioned with this, and it was great in that. It's crazy how drinkable it is, but I don't think what it isn't is like the hot, sexy thing. It's not the, singular experience that, you're going to be wowed by, that's going to open up a whole new kind of pathway of thinking about Demerara rums and rums from Guyana. No, it's not that. It's just, I think, well-made example of what they do in a really drinkable expression. Now, which I haven't really talked about too much is pricing. I think this is $66 or it's 60, one or the other. Anyways, you might say for that price point, I have plenty of other things that I've paid that much or less for that kind of gets me fairly close to that kind of classic experience. And that's probably true. I probably have some of those in my closet as well. But as someone who really loves that taste, I can't get enough of that stuff, right? So I'm really glad to have this in my collection. But just know that I think if you have a couple of, or a decent amount or good experience with Demerara rums, that you might have certain things that kind of already play in this space. But it plays in that space really, really well. Like what the Rumcast guy said, feels very appropriate to the season. I'm recording this, I guess, November 28th, but it feels very winter, feels very holiday, feels very, in a way, kind of Christmas. The baking spices that I'm getting on the palate here as well, kind of, and definitely on the aroma, all come together to create something that I would want to drink when the weather's slightly cold outside and I'm sitting next to a fireplace. I've had a nice little dinner and now I want to drink some rum. This is the kind of rum I want to drink in that moment in time and place. I don't know why I paused so long. Whatever. Anyways, let's move on to the Mauritius. A lot different on the aroma. No surprise there. I get this candied element. Kind of looks just kind of candied. What is that? Like a slightly hard, like a hard fruit candy of some kind. Maybe tinged with a little bit of absinthe. Maybe. I would say I am able to kind of note the underlying cane juice distillate here. It's there for sure. It's not maybe the top note. It's like the bottom note on the aroma. I don't know if I necessarily pick up the red wine, though maybe that fruit that I called out, and I haven't really named the fruit. I'm just calling it fruit. Maybe that's where some of that red wine is coming in. And, I'm not, at least I don't think I'm getting hit over the head with a lot of that English whiskey or really any. To me, I'm able to kind of lock on to that cane distillate. There's a lot going on here, for sure. Definitely immediately I kind of noticed the higher proof. Definitely punches a little bit more. Not unwieldy, but has some oomph to it. And I've already forgotten what I initially tasted because right now on the finish is where I'm getting what to me is clearly a lighter aged cane juice distillate. Like you are getting the flavors of cane. In a way, it sort of evoked a little bit of like aged Rum JM or aged Clement. I'm really bad at the VOs and the VSOPs and the XOs. I don't know which one is which in terms of number of years, but it evokes some of those, in terms of your, like, to me, I get the essence of the cane kind of on the back end and on the finish. That's what this is doing as well. Up front, there's like a really There is a fruitiness here. Fruity and floral, actually. There's definitely some dried fruit thing going on here as well. There is this slightly acidic, slightly like cleaning solution note midway through. Not intense, not overwhelming. It's something I pick up. It's something I notice. There is, for sure, what can only be described as the whiskey influence. I think that's very clear and obvious, though it feels to me a little less kind of malty and almost more kind of yeasty up front. And then I think that yeastiness turns into more of a clear kind of whiskey influence. It's not aggressive. I don't think it's not distracting, but it's there. I think you kind of have to. I think you have to kind of take it on, kind of head on a little bit. So I'd say this is a little more. There's more here to like parse compared to the Guyana. This is more of a, frankly, more of a kind of a rum nerd thing, where you want to like sit and actively engage with the rum and try to parse the experiences and the flavors and the journey and track all that. This is more that kind of rum than the Guyana. The Guyana is like comforting, cozy, and you drink a lot of it and you're not overly fussed about it, right? This feels fussy. I wouldn't say overly fussy, but it's fussy. It's intriguing here. There's a push-pull in some of the flavors. That yeastiness transition to the finish of the aged cane distillate. I don't know if it's the most kind of graceful, elegant transition, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be. I think it's doing a couple other things before it gets there. So all that to say that I think there's very almost like discrete moments here. And I think for me, the fact that it ends on that note of that cane juice note that's sort of familiar, I like that. It helps really makes me like the rum more than if I didn't have that note in the back end. I think if it was everything else and I didn't get that kind of cane juice note in the back end, I don't know how much I would really, it would altogether that it would work for me. But I think to me, because that's the ultimate destination, I've come to appreciate the journey to get there, you know. But if that wasn't the destination, that journey, regardless of where it ended, I don't know if I'd necessarily be like wowed by, if any of that makes sense. I think if I only had to buy one of these two, even though the Mauritius has the more complexity and the more kind of opportunities for introspection and all that's more rum nerdy, I kind of really like the Guyana. It reminds me about everything I really like about rums from Demerara Distillers Limited, right? It's almost quintessential in, I think, the best ways, in an approachable package at 50% ABV. That's the kind of rum I want to drink. And again, it's pretty, I don't know if you can make it out here, it's pretty dreary outside and cloudy and cold. And so frankly, that, you know, we are all a product of our environment, and you know, we respond to time and place and moment and environment. And this is the kind of rum, the Guyana VSG, it's the kind of rum I want to drink right now. So in this moment, this is the one I would pick. But I think, frankly, maybe that would maybe be the case year-round. Tough to say, because I'm only able to live in this one moment right now. Not knocking the Mauritius, I think it's a little bit more interesting and it takes more time. To be honest, when I first had the first pour of the Mauritius, I was like, this kind of seems like I don't know what's going on here. Right? It's not coming together for me. But after like the second or third session with it, I was like, okay, I get it now. I get what it's doing. But there are layers here, and I think you need to spend time with it. So yeah, there you go. Those are my thoughts. Really excited that the guys from the Rumcast are doing this. They really, I think, brought out some really cool, fun rums. And for me, I'm going to end this video in one way, because I really like the Guyana, and I've already mixed it up. That's the Guyana? Yeah, that's the Guyana. I really like it. It evokes the holidays. So what I'm going to do, because I don't know, I have this in my fridge. It's the holidays. It's after Thanksgiving. I've got some eggnog, and because that rum reminds me of the season and Christmas, I'm gonna see how it does with some eggnog. Why not, man? I don't know. We'll do a little. Yeah, sure. Okay, here goes nothing or everything. Cheers. I mean, frankly, that's kind of perfection. That's really good. I'm gonna dump all this in here. Hopefully this was the Guyana, not the Mauritius. That's really it for this video. Again, definitely check out the podcast from Rumcast, like where they go through this journey. I'll link to it down below. Check it out. I'll also include links to where you can buy this. I think the nice folks at Raising Glasses are the ones selling this stuff. So it'll be on the website. I'll link down below. And I'm gonna finish. Actually, frankly, I'm gonna make more of this eggnog / Guyana and enjoy it. And that's it for me. And I hope you all are doing well. I'll catch you all next time. Cheers.